Watch the entire video, my lovely viewers, to get the whole thing. Without wasting much of your time, let's get right into it.
This is DJ Mutati exclusive.
Hi lovely viewers, it's me again, your one and only Mutati Mpundu. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time on my channel, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button down below. Turn the bell icon to join the notification squad. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this video in the comment section below. I'll be super glad to hear from you lovely viewers.
I want to find out. You speak with calmness, you speak with vision, you speak with wanting to change whatever the roller coaster is like now. Are you telling us that this is the different patriotic front that a lot of people probably complained about 7 years ago, saying things are not okay, we're experiencing all this hooliganism, we're experiencing this bullying and so on? You speak with a lot of democracy in your voice, in your tonation. You speak with a lot of empathy for the people of Zambia. Have you, as the PF, realized to say the channel that we really need to take is to show empathy and show the proper democracy that the people of Zambia and the people of Africa really deserve?
Listen, first of all, what is the ideology of Patriotic Front? Okay. Why were we pronouncing ourselves through our first president that we're a pro-poor political party? How is it that we're able to pronounce our policies in such a way that I spoke and resonated with the ordinary people? It's from the same place to which I'm expressing myself. The complaint and the beating that we got from those who criticize PF in opposition, particularly the UPND, most of which through propaganda. They could not fault us in terms of development. They basically, developed the skill of spinning propaganda against PF in relation to cadres. When you look at the so-called cadreism under PF, it was basically what I could say, those associated with PF, they will be in the streets and making noise, inconveniencing maybe people in terms of movement. But the UPND's cadreism is that they have taken cadres into institutions of government.
The difference with you is they were on the street, but the UPND
they are in government.
In government.
So you can have ECZ, which is supposed to preside over the elections. UPND cadres have been appointed as commissioners, including the chairperson. You have a situation where, because there's a matter that is before the Concord, all of a sudden there is this rush, clearly Mingarato, to remove some judges, in a dramatic manner. And new judges are appointed, some of which were here. The allegations that that's when they are going to do quote-unquote courses in human rights. You understand? Because at Parliament, they were, when they were being scrutinized, because obviously they needed to be ratified, a number of them were found that they are not even qualified. There were even questions of proximity to the UPND and the leadership in UPND. All these things speak to the fact that when you talk of cadreism with PF, it was the irritation of cadres by the noise they were making in certain places. Yeah, maybe at a bus station. When Misaka Indaichirema says, do you want to be beaten again, to be, for pangas to come back and so on? It is a twist of facts. If there is a political party that is violent, I have met UPND cadres who have told me that when we unleash what they call their dogs, you will see. We can beat all of you. They boast about that. That is basically a culture you can find in the so-called Mapatize formula. You can find it in many other formulas they were using whenever there were by-elections. Go to the statistics, go to the reports on the inquiry, remember that President Edgar Lungu had commissioned for people to go and study what was going on. But with the propaganda, they attempted to paint us black. But time has a way of revealing the truth. Why is it that Edgar Chagalungu, that was perceived to be such a bad leader, has become a darling, loved by ordinary Zambians? It's because they realize we voted out a good leader and brought in a leader that is oppressing us. We thought he was going to fix the economy, but he's fixing us. But we also are honest enough as Patriotic Front. Remember, just after the loss, we commissioned an ad hoc committee led by Honorable Jean Kapata, who is our vice national, chairperson, to undertake what we called a postmortem. We went to interact with people across the country to be able to tell the party why we lost. And we were very categorical that on all fronts you were good. The only challenge we saw and were uncomfortable with was the behavior of your cadres. And that we have been able to cure. Hence, our discourse is not just an act. We're not in a theater where we are acting for convenience. What I'm telling you is coming from a place of conviction. We need to do better as a country. We need to prioritize the interests of the Zambian people, even in our political discourse. When you interview a person who are advancing mainly the rhetoric of wanting to promote themselves, and it's about themselves, just know that they have lost the plot. The real value or the values we're advocating for in PF is that the collective interests of the Zambian people matter more than personal interests. They even matter more than the partisan interests. And that's how come promoting unity among opposition can only work if all of us suspend personal and political interests and look at the bigger picture, which is basically the interest of the nation.
Awesome. Now, let me take you to South Africa. Recently, you were in South Africa, and you of all the people, firsthand, really saw the pain, the grief, and the anguish that the former First family is going through. I want you to speak to the legacy of former Republican President Edgar Chagwa-Lungu. How do you think it's going to be upheld, and how do you think the Zambians will live to remember the former Republican president with what you saw in South Africa and what you're witnessing in Zambia, and owing to the fact that you sent a team to go and have a conversation with individuals out there on what best they can, what best you can change as far as your party?
First of all, President Lungu was a leader that had a thick skin. Looking at how much he was criticized, maligned, misunderstood, and painted in a manner that when you get closer and got closer to him, was totally contradictory to the real person and the values he held. Okay? And during his presidency, first of all, what speaks for him is that he did not emerge through ambition to become president. It was more or less obviously like divine appointment and the trust of the people. Even when he had the opportunity to impose himself as a leader, when he was left as acting president of the country, when others brought about some interpretation around who should act now that President Sata died, everybody said, you're acting president, remain firm and commandeer this because you're already in situ. President Lungu chose the other way. He took back the instruments of power and said, please, you can proceed. That's how, Vice President Guy Scott acted as president. When there was a jostling for power within PF, Those who are closer to the process will tell you. He said, if I'm destined to be president, it will happen. But I will not fight for it. Leadership that you fight for always leads to failure. I have done my best as member of Central Committee, chair for legal, and I've also done my best from the time I was given an opportunity to be Secretary General. If what I brought to the table was of value and people appreciated it, then we will be able to say, this is the leader we need. He emerged from that place of humility and self-denial. Those are great virtues expected in a leader. If becoming president or becoming something is a do or die, you will fight for it with everything. It connotes that for you, occupying that office is an achievement. And that is where people's ambition caused them to go off the rail. Because when you become president and it's an achievement by being called Your Excellency, which in my view is cheap, then what? The scriptures say the end of the matter is greater than the beginning thereof. Meaning that if you're given an opportunity to be Secretary General, as I am, it is only when I finish my tour of duty that people can judge whether there was a leader who was given that privilege to serve in that capacity. You know, not at the beginning. I shouldn't even pride myself that I'm Secretary General, because being Secretary General is not an achievement. It's what you do in that office. And in this case, my little contribution is that we have found ourselves in these difficulties. My little contribution, I hope it will lead to the unity of the party, the unity of the opposition, and also a smooth transition in a democratic, transparent manner to arrive at a leader that will not only serve the opposition and patriotic front, but will serve the country given an opportunity to be in government and serve diligently. Now, President Lungu was also committed to the rule of law. And what he did as president is so tangible that it's difficult for anybody to ignore. It's difficult for anybody to deny. It's difficult for anybody to erase. He was Minister of Justice before he became president. There was a debate around the draft constitution that the technical committee had come up with. When he was Minister of Justice, he said, you know, this draft will see the light of day in Parliament. My turning point in working with President Lungu was around that constitution, because, you know, when the draft was introduced in Parliament, he said it's a document. We will not produce a white paper, which was the tradition, you know, with other regimes and other presidents, that people will speak, there will be a commission who go around and so on. When they come up with a draft, it is then submitted to government, and cabinet comes up with a white paper, meaning they cherry pick what they think they are comfortable to take to Parliament for enactment. For him, he said, take it as it is. Simbiakula, I'm appointing you to take this document as it is. That's how the running mate clause found itself in the Constitution. 50+1 and other provisions, which some people criticize, but today they are celebrating. Remember how critical the likes of State Counsel John Sanga were when this process was being undertaken under President Edgar Chaganogo. Later on, at least he was honest enough to say, you know, Lungu has shocked everybody, including him, that he was brave enough to sign that document. At the time, people were threatening President Lungu that he will lose the election if he allows 50+1 running mate and all this to be put in the Constitution. He said, if I will only be in office for 1 year and some months, and I am able to give the people their document as they wished it to be, so be it. That speaks to his legacy. Infrastructure today, infrastructure development in all the provinces without any discrimination. Whether you talk of Northwestern Province, you talk of Western Province, you talk of Southern Province, you talk along the Rhine of Rail, he traversed this country without any form of discrimination. He was accused many times that maybe his tribalism and so on. Some of the appointments that he made to cabinet were deliberate to make sure that the One Zambia, One Nation motto was upheld. So the legacy of President Edgar Chaganogo is there for everybody to see. He was a humble defender of our values as a people. He is known to have stood against the foreign pressure to legalize, foreign values like LGBT rights. You remember the interview he had with that
With the
lady
BBC.
from Sky News,
Yeah, Sky News.
who came to pressurize that, no, don't you think you risk, losing, foreign aid if you don't embrace these values? He said would rather remain poor.
Keep your foreign aid. If that's what foreign aid comes with,
With-
I remember the words correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the legacy of a man. What is the legacy of some of our people who are in government today?
That's a question that a lot of Zambians definitely would want to ask. Let's jump a little bit away from the Patriotic Front and the Tonse Alliance. But let's speak to some of the talks, or should I say, the street talks currently, as well as every other Zambian talk. We have vast land in Zambia. And currently, I want to say it's our biggest asset. Yes, we have the mines, we have everything, the rivers and whatnot. But land in Zambia is vast. If you drive from here to Kasama, you appreciate it. There is a new land and deeds registry amendment that is currently making rounds out there. And a lot of people are talking about this, placing power in the registrar's hands. I want you to speak to what exactly do you make of this bill? And what do you think? Is this the right thing that Zambians need? And also, as we speak about this bill, let's speak to the Bill 7. Do we have anything similar that has featured in the Bill 7 that was in Bill 10?
Well, first of all, unfortunately, when you look at the laws that are being pushed to Parliament, they all speak to the mindset of the leader, HH. Why would you want to give power to an individual to just wake up and cancel and take land from you? It may without any justification. You take away the process of litigation if there is a dispute. The conscience of the nation is the judiciary. Why? Because if there is any dispute or difference between individuals, we seek recourse through the judiciary. You can't take away that power to make sure that justice prevails when there is a challenge. Even when you have a dispute with the state, you go to the court to resolve that matter.
Procedure of the law is taken.
This is basically wanting the state, because the backstops of the president, for people to be, harassed, properties gotten without justification. And it could be speaking to the fact that maybe what the people are experiencing in Namwana and in that part of the country, where the grazing land for communities have been grabbed and one person has personalized in those areas for their personal benefit. You understand? They are not satisfied. They want to scale it up at national level, where somebody will then possibly grab properties for themselves using the land bill through the Commission of Lands. Remember, I talked about appointing cadres. You understand? When you look at those who have been appointed, whether it's Attorney General's office, Mr. Kavesha is UPND, even attempted to stand in Shibuyunji. Masho Mchende's Solicitor General was basically, an errand fellow for President HH. You understand? There hasn't even this conscience of saying these people are conflicted, they cannot occupy these offices. So you are guaranteed that the one that is appointed or will be appointed as Commission of Lands will be a UPND cadre and will be used and influenced or instructed and directed to grab people's properties, especially if they are not sympathizers or supporting the current regime. You can't have that kind of law. You understand? Bill 7, first of all, before we even talk about the content, we know that is being pushed for purposes of preserving the inevitable, preserving themselves from facing the inevitable, and that's the loss of elections. The so-called pronounce of delimitation and so on is not done in good faith. There hasn't been even a process of consultation to say, if we are to delimitate, what are the areas to which to balance, the country in terms of distribution of resources. There hasn't been any consultation. So the process towards enacting the bill and the timing for trying to enact the Bill 7, all of them are wrong. And everybody, by consensus in the country, have said, let's not even debate the merits and demerits. Defer this bill to immediately after the election, so that we don't have a situation where, through this process, people sneak into the Constitution provisions that will kill, because right now our democracy and democratic space is shrinking and our democracy is being destroyed slowly. Before it is completely destroyed and killed, can we at least allow that we have some kind of a credible process of elections? Then after that, you can debate freely without the pressure of optimism towards the election.
The question that the UPND has come up with or reasoned with is the fact that you, as the PF, 10 years ago, delimitated the country. And they're saying it's 10 years past, we need to do this now. And here you are, you're qualifying it simply by saying they have not done the needful simply by having a stakeholder engagement. And they have not really consulted fully in the fact that how are we going to divide the resources or supply these newly delimited constituencies with resources. They are saying we have enough resources to do this. And here you are, as PF saying they could have done better. What is it that they could have done better? If you were to stand there and say, this is what you could have done better, what is it that they can do better?
Well, I think it's a motivation around the enactment of Bill 7. When they are trying to anchor on delimitation, but there are other inimical provisions within Bill 7 that should never even be thought about. I don't have the document here, but I can only speak authoritative to the fact that the process to arrive at even that draft itself was not all-inclusive. That's not Ms. Nakachinda's document or the UPND's document. That's the people's document. That's the supreme law of the land. You definitely need consensus. You need people to speak to their document and dictate what should be in the document. It should not be dictated to by a political party, whether you're under ruling or otherwise. West still should not be dictated to by the individual. I also have limitations. I saw a letter by Mr. John Sangwa to the Attorney General restraining the President from commenting around Bill 7 because it's still in court and there are matters yet to be resolved in court. And therefore he can't then be suggesting that that bill has not been withdrawn. It has just been put on ice so that there could be some stakeholder engagement and things like that. And I think in the same vein, I would comment only to the, to a limited point, to a point where I can highlight what is in the public domain, to which all of us spoke and why we are uncomfortable with UPND proceeding with Bill number 7. Yeah.
Awesome.
This is DJ Mutati exclusive.
Alright, that's all for you today, lovely viewers. If you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about the video you just watched in the comment section below. I'll be super glad to hear from you, lovely viewers. Once again, I go by the name of Mutati Mpundu. I love you, peace, I gotta go.